We're destroying their fighting positions, their tanks, their vehicles, their barracks, their training camps, and the oil and gas facilities and infrastructure that fund their operations.
The highly produced ISIS video says America thinks it's safe because of the geographical location. Thus, you see it invades the Muslim lands, and it thinks that the army of the jihad won't reach into their lands.
We at SITE have been researching the jihadi threat online for over a decade, follow their steps, monitor their activities, and study their activities online.
Once again, SITE discovers terror threat against America. A month-old alleged threat against U.S. service personnel by the Islamic State was followed up by a new warning from the Northern Command on Monday. The official use warning by the military command urging soldiers to hide their personal information online follows the release of a purported IS video claiming the group will engage in another 9/11 attack against the United States. According to SITE, the video is part of a Twitter campaign attributed to the Islamic State under the hashtag #WeWillBurnUS again. The tweets are threatening to unleash a new 9/11 attack on America. In a time of lone wolf attacks and Americans and other Westerners pledging to the Islamic State, this kind of campaign should not be taken lightly, SITE Director Rita Katz said. The Twitter campaign, along with other ones like it in the past, shows the Islamic State's skill in forcing itself into Western conversations, she added. Katz believes the campaign shows a unified and structured method of online mobilization by the Islamic State and its followers. A video coinciding with the social media campaign threatens every American on the globe. Tweets attributed to the terror group promise attacks like those that occurred in France and Canada. The SITE intelligence group consists of Katz and 2 senior advisors, one of whom is Bruce Hoffman, the corporate chair in counterterrorism and counterinsurgency at the RAND Corporation, and former director of the RAND's Washington, D.C. office, according to James F. Tracy.
We're at 1776 Main Street in Santa Monica, California. And yes, you do see a mushroom cloud behind me made up of giant chain links. This is the home of the RAND Corporation complex, the most important and powerful globalist think tank in the world. Dr. Strangelove, the Stanley Kubrick film made in the early 1960s, is about this organization. They developed the plan of mutually assured destruction against the Russians. They developed mid-air refueling. They developed systems analysis. They developed the futurist paradigms of the Pentagon. They developed the transhumanist ideas or repackage the transhumanist ideas of Aldous Huxley. These guys are the ones that put out public reports 15 years ago. It's how I knew what was going to unfold about how they were going to militarize police, how they were going to federalize police, how they would build threat fusion centers, how the system would set up a homeland security grid under Northcom with federal command bases used to spy on the citizenry. They write big reports on how to manipulate people through financial systems and how to sell them on tyranny individually. And they have the nerve in all of their nomenclature to obsess on the founding fathers in 1776 and freedom and the rest of it, when the RAND Corporation is the exact opposite. And no other group has their documents taken by the Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group, CFR, and then put into policy like this organization. The RAND Corporation is at the heart of the New World Order. It's part of that inner coterie, or almost a group of ring-wraith organizations that serve this dark system.
In 2003 and 2004, SITE received financial support from the U.S. government. Also in the early 2000s, SITE was on contract providing consulting services to the FBI. It would appear that SITE has abandoned its nonprofit status and now relies on corporate and individual subscriptions for revenue. In 2005, the private mercenary contractor Blackwater hailed SITE as an invaluable resource. One of SITE's founders, Rita Katz, is a government insider with close connections to former terrorism czar Richard Clarke and his staff in the White House, as well as investigators in the Department of Justice, Department of the Treasury, and the Department of Homeland Security.
ISIS account on social media indicated that within a short time they will be releasing the video. Only we actually had that video beforehand and were able to beat them with the release.
According to SourceWatch, a number of the video site is claimed to have discovered were subsequently found to be frauds. John Bound, INFOWARS.com.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system or call 1-888-253-3139.
InfoWars Life and InfoWarsLife.com is extremely excited to announce our latest release, Winter Sun, a revolutionary type of vitamin D3. Winter Sun is a premium quality vitamin D3 nutritional supplement. It is produced by extracting oil from healthy, nutrient-dense plants known as lichens. Every batch is analyzed for purity and D3 content. It's completely free of toxins and allergens. Simply put, if you want the best at an extremely low price, this is it. Winter Sun is the result of our pursuit of the best source of vitamin D3. The research and development took over 2 years, but the result, as verified by independent laboratories, is the best vegan vitamin D3 product in the world. Read the facts at InfoWarsLife.com about Winter Sun Vitamin D3. Not only does vitamin D3 promote a healthy mood, but vitamin D supports our memory and brain function, something the globalists are targeting. Visit InfoWars.com today or call 888-253-3139.
We're at a point in American history where it seems like more happens in a decade than happened in the past 50 years. If you're an older person, you recall the assassinations of Kennedy, of Martin Luther King, maybe even the invasion of Vietnam. But for me, my generation, we recall 9/11 and of course the Oklahoma City bombing. I was a young child when it happened. I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. The teachers, told us that there was an event going on, but we didn't know exactly what was happening until we were able to go home and see the footage on the TV for ourselves. And I really wish, I was more awake at the time. Of course, I was a young child. I wouldn't have understood these things, but I really wish I would have had the state of mind to go and record these things on a VCR or something so I could have these police interviews, all this news footage to show it at a later date. Because the thing about this is the Oklahoma City bombing, there's a lot of initial reporting that was very good, but then you have the powers that be that come in and start to drive the narrative. Case in point, early on with the Oklahoma City bombing, they were reporting that there were bombs removed from the Murrah building. And I'm not talking about fragments of the original Ryder truck bomb. I'm talking about intact explodable ordnance. The bomb disposal unit came in and took out those bombs. But the official narrative says that Timothy McVeigh nor Terry Nichols never stepped foot inside the Murrah building, which is to say there's at least one other person involved in the Oklahoma City bombing, even if it was somebody acting completely separate from McVeigh and Nichols. To talk more about this, we have Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof of Radio Free Oklahoma. He is a filmmaker and writer. Thank you for joining us today, Holland.
Thank you for having me on.
Now, as I was talking in the intro, I was a very young child when the bombing happened. And I remember sitting in the school building and I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. We had heard that there was some type of attack in Oklahoma City. I'm, of course, from Tulsa, an hour away, and the teachers were buzzing about, but I didn't fully understand the seriousness of the situation until after I was able to get home and watch the news footage of the bombing. And at the time, they were doing the best they could to get the information out there, as you've documented in your film, A Noble Lie, that you were writer-producer on. We had the early news reports, people like Terrence Janke, which we'll get to in one second. Also, the bombs they found inside the building. And when we talk about the bomb, we're not talking about fragments of the Ryder truck bomb. We're talking about a bomb disposal unit came into the building and remove those bombs, but much of that footage has gone astray and really isn't part of the mainstream narrative. Do you have any theories as to why that may be?
Well, there were pre-planted explosives inside the Murrah building. That's been proven many times. We've interviewed many first responders, many of whom would not go on the record, literally for fear of their lives, talking about finding other explosives at the scene. I interviewed one sheriff's deputy who talked of overhearing the ATF agents talk openly of swabbing the interior columns and coming up positive for C4 plastic explosive. In a Noble Lie, we interviewed several witnesses who saw people transporting C4 plastic explosive into the building, into the parking garage. They did not know what it was at the time. They were civilians. They did not recognize it. They just thought it was gray putty. But it turns out one of those suspects was Andreas Strasmeyer, as identified out of a police lineup. Andy Strasmeyer was likely a double agent. So we see the evidence for explosives inside the building tied directly to federal informants and double agents.
So when we talk about the bombing there, you know, you've reported on it, we've reported on it as well, that, you know, there's people out there the days before putting up what one witness, I believe she thought they were putting up telephone wire or something to that effect. And, you know, we think about this official narrative of the bombing. They say in the official narrative that Timothy McVeigh nor Terry Nichols ever entered the building. So how do these bombs get there? Which in my mind says there's at least one other person, even if it was somebody acting completely independent of Nichols and McVeigh, somebody else had a hand in the bombing.
Well, there was definitely the hand of someone in the bombing. For example, there's a lawsuit being pressed right now in a Salt Lake City federal courtroom to release the videotapes to prove whether or not there was another person. Jesse Trentadue, the attorney, has a paper in his hand with a Secret Service timeline detailing multiple suspects, in their own words, exiting the trucks upon viewing the videotapes. They described the scene as multiple suspects. One reason he's pressing for the videotapes. What we saw inside the Murrah building, you saw the explosives inside the building, and the hand of someone else perhaps is that Tim McVeigh rented the wrong size truck. That bomb was supposed to go off. That truck bomb was supposed to detonate inside the parking garage where the bulk of the C4 was planted. Had that happened, it would have been nigh impossible to disprove the official story regarding the bomb damage, because it would have been consistent. As it is, they just parked it in the street because they had nowhere else to park it. And the crater is asymmetrical to the damage inside the building, inside the parking garage. So it was because of a foul up, a mistake. The government is not all powerful and unerring. They mess up all the time. In fact, on these operations, they mess up more often than not. 9/11 should have been bigger. Oklahoma City was supposed to involve at least a couple other federal buildings. No one was taking the bait, however. So we see how these operations go down, who they're tied to, how they mess up, yet still how they try to derive benefit from these attacks.
Right. And one of the things you talked about there is the surveillance tapes. You know, as with any crime, when something happens, I want to see the footage. They said Holland robbed a liquor store. I'm like, okay, did the liquor store have a surveillance camera? Yeah. Can I see the footage of Holland doing it? No, we don't have that for you. So when we talk about these surveillance tapes, does the FBI have any surveillance video proof that they're willing to release to the public showing that this was the attack of a lone gunman or lone wolf, so to speak, being Timothy McVeigh?
We've all seen the famous perp walk of McVeigh being escorted from the jail into federal custody. We've all seen that, where people are booing and hissing him and he's looking very stoic or mean into the camera or beyond the camera. What we've never seen is the footage of that same McVeigh walking out of the Ryder truck in front of the Murrah building. Because he did. I'm not saying McVeigh is innocent.
No, me neither.
Go ahead. And that's right. And he deserved what he got. But he was not alone. He was incapable of running an operation like this. Myself and Wendy Painting, my co-writer on A Noble Lie, we interviewed many people who were in the Army with McVeigh, and they all universally describe him as a total, quote, tool. He would do whatever he was told, but he was incapable of initiative. He was following orders. We have a videotape of someone we interviewed in Noble, saw McVeigh prior to the bombing at a payphone outside the Murrah building, cursing because the operation had been delayed for some reason. Quote, he said he told us to wait. He told us to wait, as in McVeigh has a boss. And he most definitely did have a boss. He didn't